Hi, it's Dr. Betsy Greenleaf, and we're here with another episode of Body, Mind, Spirit. I'm so excited to be talking with Dr. Amelia Barrett today. She's a neurologist and a specialist in headaches, and I can't wait to find out more from her. So, thank you so much, Dr. Barrett, Amelia, for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I forgot to ask you, what would you prefer to be called?
Dr. Barrett's good, or
Okay,
Amelia, either one.
great, great. So, how did you get into the specialty that you're in?
Well, I have always loved the brain ever since I was a little girl. Even when I was 8, I used to make models of the human brain. My dad's an artist, and there was always art supplies around. So I've always been fascinated by the brain. And I think, honestly, my interest in headaches stemmed from my own experience with headaches and my frustrations with conventional medicine. I'm an MD. I trained at Stanford. I grew up, so to speak, in that world. And there came a time when I was sitting in my office realizing that it didn't matter what pills I was throwing at these people. It was not going to truly heal them. It was not going to truly get them better. So that's really how I came to the work that I do today.
That's really interesting. I was talking to you a little bit before, but I really want to get into this. I am not a person that suffers from headaches, which I know there are tons of people out there that do. How does somebody know what's the difference between like just a headache and a migraine, and when should they be concerned?
Well, that's a really good question. So the main difference between a headache and a migraine is the symptoms that you get other than the pain, really. So the things that are very strongly associated with migraine are symptoms like nausea, or people may experience light sensitivity, sound sensitivity. So these are people who stop eating, they may even vomit, they go to a dark room, don't want any sound or light. So those are the things that really distinguish migraine from other types of headache.
What causes headaches in the first place? Why do we get pains in our heads?
Oh my gosh, dozens of different things, literally, which I think is part of the problem that comes up with treating them just with a pill, the way conventional medicine does. We're not taking a step back and saying, okay, what's really going on here? Why is my brain causing pain? What is the message here? What do I have to figure out in order to make this pain stop? So it can be anything from, poor quality sleep all the way to poor nutrition, poor brain health, poor gut health, trouble detoxing chemicals from the body. It can be difficulties shifting the nervous system out of that chronic fight or flight state. So dozens of different things really can go into creating headaches for people.
'Cause with the headaches, does it have to fit like a frequency? I mean, I've had headaches in my life, but I have friends who like have them really bad and debilitating or have them all the time. Does it have to fit some kind of category of the frequency to be like now a diagnosis, or do just the general population, do they just get headaches?
Well, people can. About 35 million Americans actually get fairly frequent headaches, and I think that the time when people really need to take action and stop just powering through, which is what we as women do, right? We just take some Advil and move on. But I think the time when we really need to start paying attention to it is when we are needing to take something more than 2 days a week for those headaches. If that is happening for any of you who are listening right now, if that's happening to you, for you, it's time to take action. It's time to do something different. That because you're kind of on the cusp of being in a different diagnosis. So that signifies more of that transition into what we call chronification, which is kind of a chronic headache pattern as opposed to just the occasional headache. And that really is a different problem, needs to be addressed differently. We need to start focusing on brain health at that point. So I would say that that's kind of the main characteristic that separates, just the occasional headache versus something that you really need to start paying more attention to.
I know with my patients, when it comes to pelvic health, whenever they present with a symptom and people don't know what it is, everyone's automatic, at least in my profession, automatic mindset is, oh my God, is this a tumor? Am I going to die? Do you get that from people with headaches that don't know what's happening? Do they think that they're like, oh my God, do I have a brain tumor? Like, what is going on?
Oh, of course, every day. And I mean, I myself have had those anxieties as well. I in my 20s, I had a lot of headaches. My mom gets them, both of my daughters get them. I mean, we clearly have the genetics. Fortunately, they're not that bad for me anymore, but I certainly had that phase like, why is my head hurting all the time? Do I have a brain tumor? And I went in and got an MRI to make sure everything was okay. And thank goodness it was. But I think that's a very normal and natural part of it. Of course, we all worry about the worst case scenario. And, really the answer is just go to a doctor, get checked, make sure everything's okay.
With somebody who suffers from like recurrent headaches or migraines, what do you think is like a good step for them to start doing in their life? Like maybe like what is the first step they should do to start trying to improve or decreasing their symptoms?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I see in my office is problems with sleep. And, I think intuitively we all know that if we're sleep deprived, jet lagged, whatever, it may give us that occasional headache. But for those of us who have the genetics and we're more prone to headaches, we honestly have to sort of become, a superhero in managing our sleep. We have to resist so many of the pressures of our modern culture, of our stay up late on your phone, watching TV, sleep doesn't matter, power through, I can get by on 5 or 6 hours of sleep. But for those of us who are prone to headaches, that's not gonna work. And so I think sleep has to move way up on our list of priorities for most people. There have been several studies done showing that those of us who get 6 hours of sleep a night perform significantly worse, both on cognitive tests, both on tests of emotional resilience, than people who get 8 hours of sleep a night. Our brain is doing good work while we sleep, and we really need that 8 hours. And you almost have to defy social norms to make that happen. So I think that is probably the most useful starting place for most people.
It's tough. I know I'm one of those people where I mean well when I is to go to like want to go to bed. Like I even have an alarm set on my watch to be like, okay, start getting ready for bed. But I'm one of those people like, okay, let me just get one more thing done, one more thing done. And next thing I know, it's like hours later. And so yeah, I'm unfortunately in that category of getting 6 or less hours of sleep, which I'm trying to actively change. But do you have any
Yeah.
tips? You can't go from all of a sudden 6 hours to sleep to like 8 hours because then you're just sitting there like laying in bed, like staring at the ceiling. Do you have any tips on how to kind of get to that 8 hours of sleep?
Oh, absolutely. And you brought up a really good strategy, which is to set an alarm on your phone for bedtime. We are so used to setting an alarm to wake us up, but it's really more important to set an alarm to say, okay, whatever I'm doing, it's time to wrap it up and unwind. And this whole idea of unwinding really encompasses a couple of different important things. So, number one, you've got to stop the blue light coming into your eyes. It goes straight back to a part of your brain called the pineal gland, and it tells your brain it's daytime. So, number one, no screens, no phones, no bright lights, really of any kind. You can even swap out the light bulbs in your bedroom for more of a yellow or orange tone bulb as compared to those blue tone bulbs. Makes a huge difference. It's such an easy change to make. So, first step, no more light. Second step, no more stress. Whatever it is that's going on, it is time to do whatever stress relief is for you, whether that's a hot bath, whether that's curling up with a good book, whether it's, even something like meditation or yoga, journaling, especially gratitude journaling. So the second thing is to shut down stress. So if all you do for half an hour before you decide to go to bed is shut off that blue light and shut off the stress, and figure out what that half-hour unwind time looks like for you. It can be a beautiful time of your day to really reflect and give yourself time for that transition. Then by the time bedtime comes around a half an hour later, you're kind of ready to go.
That's such a good point because I find that when I'm especially working on my computers, if I push it too late, I hit this wall where like 1 minute I'm tired, next minute I am awake for hours because my brain's probably thinking, oh, it's daytime, time to get going. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and conversely, when I'm on vacation and I'm not in front of a screen, all of a sudden it might be 8 o'clock at night. And I'm like, wow, it feels like it's 10 o'clock. I'm so tired. Why am I so tired? So,
Yeah. Yeah. Because your body has that chance to catch up. It has a chance to catch up on rest. And when you're not keeping it awake with the lights and the stress chemicals, then it's like, okay, I'm out. I'm going to do some healing here. And I think you're really, really right to point that out about vacation, and that gives us a clue as to what our body actually needs.
I try to tell my patients too that they always think of when they think of screens, they're thinking of like they're thinking of tablets and computers and stuff like that. But TV is a screen too, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And for so many people, for years, I used to ask my patients, what do you do for stress management? And they'll say like, watch TV and have a drink, and it's like, oh, okay, well, we got a lot to unpack here. Number one, screens are not going to help you actually physiologically relax, because this has actually been studied. And you know what? Most of our TV, it actually releases stress chemicals in us, right? You're watching your favorite thriller, or you want to know what's happening in the world. You turn on the news. You know what your body does? It's making a lot of cortisol. It's making a lot of stress chemicals in response to what we're watching on TV. And it does distract you from whatever's going on in your life. If you had a bad day or somebody said something that upset you, sure, it'll take your mind off of it. But physiologically, what it's doing in your body oftentimes is just releasing more stress chemicals. You're like, oh my gosh, who killed that person? What's going to happen next? You're all wrapped up in it. So a lot of times watching TV is actually not relaxing you, even if it's not just right before bed. So we've really got to develop some other habits to help us unwind.
That's great. I can't wait to find out more when we come back from the commercial break.
80% of women will develop a pelvic health condition at some point in their lives. There is relief. There is hope. The Pelvic Floor Store, your resource for personal health.
All right, and we're back with Dr. Amelia Barrett, and we're talking all things headache and migraines. So, Dr. Barrett, I wanted to ask you about your course. You have a pretty amazing online course for people with headache issues. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Oh, sure. Happy to. So the whole reason I put together the online course is because you really can't take a deep dive into helping people heal this way when you know how it is. You've got 15, 20 minutes with them at a time. I mean, unfortunately, that's modern medicine. And I just kept having this experience of sitting in my office. I will never forget this one patient. It was maybe 5 years ago or so. And, I had tried probably 10, 15 different medications on her, and they weren't working. And I knew all the things I could do to get her better, but we can't do it in a 15-minute office visit. You know what I mean? I can't give her all of the nutrition, all of the, nervous system shifting, all of the detox information in that amount of time. It is not humanly possible. And I made my office visits as long as I could, and I gave people as much free information as I could. But doing this one-on-one doesn't work. It is not simply about giving people the information. If you want to help people change their lives and get better from a chronic thing like migraines, they need an intensive 3 to 6 months program to give them all the information they need to make those changes in their lives. And that's where the true impact is. So I created a course that would let me help people do that. So it is the introductory program is a 3-month course. There are several different levels to meet all budgets. And it gives you all of the information you need to get your brain healthy, because fundamentally headaches are your brain telling you something's wrong here, something's not healthy. So that's really the focus of the course. And it's a different focus than what conventional medicine does. Obviously, we're not quite as focused on medications. We still do need some of the tools of conventional medicine. And I'm not saying medications are bad. They definitely have their niche, but people usually need more than that to really get their life back to where they want to be. So that's what the course is about. It's about giving people their life back. And I just had somebody email me yesterday, such a powerful email. She has finished up her coursework and she just said, I started doing all the things and I wish you were local. I wish I could hug you. My family told me that, that they've got me back. I am back to being me. And we're just crying tears of joy here because everybody's so happy about how well it has worked to focus on brain health. So it's incredibly empowering transformations that you can see in people's lives. And that's why I do this work.
That is amazing. That's really a good point too, because so many times I hear from patients that, and I know myself, like being a patient and I'm a doctor, getting frustrated with the traditional medicine system, because unfortunately you're right, you just don't have the time. So you go in, you're seen for a short period of time. And, the reason pills are usually thrown at people because it's the quickest thing you can do, instead of really teaching and explaining people how to make, changes in their lives and true transformation. So that your course is definitely something that's needed. So I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like you bring up a good point that the one-on-one isn't necessarily where the most effective human transformation occurs. It occurs in groups.
Yes.
It really does. And conventional medicine does not have a good mechanism to allow for that to happen. But when people are going through a similar transformation in their lives, when they're in a group, they have support. My people reach out to each other. They have accountability. We've got somebody who's going to be there and say, awesome, you did that this week. That's fantastic. And you can really harness that fundamental human instinct. I mean, we are tribal beings, right? This is how we are, how we have always been. And you can really tap into that quality of people and just, provide a format for them to help each other through those transformations and provide this beautiful community of people who are doing similar work. They really want to become empowered and take control of their own health, their brain health, their headaches, and get better, get the life that they want. And there's no mechanism for doing that in conventional medicine. So I think that has been one of the most beautiful things to see coming out of this work is how people help each other.
What I wanted to ask you, I want to get back to some basic things, but first I have a question I'm dying to ask you. So Botox a number of years ago came out for treatment of headaches. And I don't know if it's specifically headaches or tension headaches or migraines or whatever it be. I'm an osteopathic physician, and my first thought was, I know for myself, when I get headaches, and this may be different types of headaches, I know for me, it's always when the muscles in the back of my neck tense up and my C1 and C2 vertebrae go out of alignment. I know exactly. So I remember when I first heard about the Botox, I was like, wait a minute, all it does is relax muscles. So couldn't people just do other things for their neck to relax muscles to help with their headaches?
Absolutely. And that is partly why I became a certified yoga instructor. So as I mentioned earlier, I had as I mentioned earlier, I had headaches pretty much throughout my 20s. And the first thing that I found outside of pills that helped my headaches was yoga. Not all kinds. Some types would definitely make it worse, but there were things within the world of yoga and meditation that fundamentally altered my life. And that just got me really curious, like, wait, they did not teach me that at Stanford. And this really helps. So I started looking at the literature and I found out that there are hundreds of articles showing that this helps. And all we have to do is teach people the right thing, right? Which is generally not at your local yoga studio. There's a different agenda there, whether it's weight loss or health and maintenance or flexible, like whatever. The goal is typically not how to reduce your headaches, at your local studio. So I really put together lots of different practices that help people. I put videos out there that show people what I do when I get a migraine, which thank goodness isn't very often anymore. But when it does happen, I show you exactly what works for me and what has worked for hundreds of other patients who I've taught this to. So yeah, you are absolutely right. It's working by, the Botox is working by relaxing muscles. And yeah, we can do that in other ways. Yoga is probably the most powerful, but I also borrow pretty heavily from physical therapy and what I teach people. And I think that helps as well. And, other things help also, chiropractic and acupuncture, massage, all incredibly beneficial. I think what fascinates me most, though, is how do we help our own selves heal? So as opposed to being, going from being dependent on, your migraine medication to now being dependent on your chiropractor, I really want to teach people, how do you fix this yourself? How do you learn the tools that are going to make you better and keep you better for the rest of your life? To me, that's where the empowerment comes from. And that's what truly shifts people's lives.
I'm glad I asked that question, because your answers were a lot more than I expected. That was great. The other thing I want to know is it something that we're eating that could be causing these headaches?
Wow, this is a huge topic in the world of migraine. And yes, there are many foods that are known migraine triggers, but my perspective is, having watched people give up food after food after food for years and watching their migraines never get any better, I feel like there is an overemphasis on food restriction in the migraine world. And I'll be honest with you, I worry that we are causing eating disorders for people with this approach by this overemphasis on restriction. And, we as women have enough challenges in the world without contributing to that. And so my emphasis is really on, how do we eat to make our brain healthy? You see what I mean? It's kind of flipping it on its head.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, what do I have to restrict so that it doesn't trigger a migraine? It's more about saying, what is my brain trying to tell me that it wants in order to make my brain better? So there was a fascinating study published in spring of 2021 showing that if you increase the amount of omega-3s you eat and decrease the amount of omega-6s, just that, you cut headaches in half in the space of 3 months. So there is really an emerging body of literature telling us that we can actually eat to make our brains healthy, and it reduces headaches in a very powerful way. So
What would be foods that are high in omega-6s?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked this question. I love talking about this because I feel like it's so actionable. It is now. You can change this today. So the omega-3s and omega-6s are both necessary for our brain function. The omega-3s are in every cell in your brain. That's why your brain likes them. And we have to eat them. There are a lot of things our body can make. Our body is this amazing biochemical factory, but we have to eat omega-3s in order to get them into our body. They're called essential fatty acids for that reason. So I'm giving a roundabout answer to your question, but it'll make sense here. Just give me a minute. So The way we get more omega-3s into our body is by switching to oils that are high in omega-3s, like olive oil, flaxseed oil. We eat more fish, shrimp. Just make sure you choose the ones that are low in mercury. We can eat more flaxseed, chia seed. So there are a lot of ways to bring more omega-3s into our nutrition. But at the same time, we have to get rid of some of the omega-6s. Now, we all need a little bit of omega-6s, but we as Americans get way more omega-6s than we need. We do not have to try. And part of the reason is that high omega-6 oils like corn oil, vegetable oil, canola oil are in everything we eat. And we have been told for decades to eat more of those oils to try to make our heart healthier, but it turns out it was the wrong advice. And what it really does is increase inflammation and worsen heart disease, and it worsens brain health too. So you don't have to try to get any omega-6s in, you're gonna get enough. What you really have to try to do is get more omega-3s in, and to stop using high omega-6 oils and to replace it with things like olive oil, flaxseed oil, which you can use for high temperature cooking as well. I don't know if you've ever tried to cook with olive oil and had it like smoke up your whole kitchen. Yes, this has happened to me. So I know this from personal experience, but as well as just looking at the numbers. But yeah, so you can add a little bit of flaxseed oil to your olive oil, and then you can fry with it just fine. So yeah, it's a combination of upping the omega-3s and decreasing the omega-6s. That's where the magic happens for brain health.
You've provided us with so many great advice during this podcast and show. Now, our theme this season is try. What is something that you would like people to try to do?
I would like people to try some fish. I was very impressed with these scientific results from this article that I'm talking about. And it is such an empowering thing to try to improve the health of our brain, not just for migraines, but also for helping us clear up symptoms like brain fog, anxiety, depression. There's great evidence that omega-3s help all of those as well. And I find that I just get a lot of resistance when I tell people to try fish. They're like, I'm not going to eat fish. So I'm just going to say, try it once, try a little bit of fish, try a little bit of shrimp, try something that, you can deal with, and maybe just come up with one new recipe, or, maybe try, I don't know, fish tacos, sub out fish for something where you would have otherwise put in some meat. Just give fish a chance. So that's what I would like people to try. I would like people to try eating just a little bit more fish.
Where can people find out more information about you and your course?
Well, there are two good places to do that. One is my website, which is ameliascottbarrettmd.com. That's AMELIASCOTTBARRETTMD.com. That's where all the information is. And if you're just interested in learning a little bit more about this brain health approach to migraines, I did put together a short video that it just helps explain in a little bit more detail how this really works, so that you can figure out if it might be a good fit for your situation. And you can watch that video at migraineclass.com.
Thank you so much for being with us. And I just want to remind people that if you enjoyed today's episode, go check out wytv7.org, where you can see all the other programming that we have. And while you're there, make sure you press the donate button, because every dollar that you donate goes to helping the community and also bringing other programs like this to you. So if you're looking, check me out at Dr. Betsy Greenleaf in multiple different ways on social media. And you can also find my website at drbetsygreenleaf.com or greenleafbewell.com. So once again, thank you, Dr. Barrett, for being with us today. Really appreciate the information that you provided.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.